Hello and welcome to another episode of Coding Bytes. I'm Luke, an educator at Coding Lab. In today's episode, we'll be learning about managing the physics of heading and bouncing motions in App Inventor. We'll be creating a game called Block Basher, where our goal is to bounce a ball using our pedal and destroy the blocks on the screen. So here's a preview of what we accomplish by the end of this video. Let me hit the restart game button to start playing the game. The game is simple. I have to bounce the ball off my pedal and I have to destroy the 5 blocks that are on the screen. So if you notice, the ball also bounces off the edges and it bounces off the blocks once it has destroyed them. If I destroy all 5 blocks, I win the game. Now let me hit the restart button and see what happens if I fail to bounce the ball. So if you notice, I had 3 lives, and because I let the ball drop, I have 2 lives left. And if I fail to catch the ball again, it is game over. Let's move over to App Inventor, where we can start programming the Block Basher game. After you have downloaded the project file, click on Projects and click on Import Project from my computer and open up the Block Basher Remix file. So after you hit Open, hit OK, and we will arrive at the designer interface. Now let's get started programming. The first step is to program the bouncing physics of the ball when it hits the edges of the screen. For this, I'm going to open up the pinball blocks, and I'm going to look for the block that says when pinball.edge reached. And then I'm going to use the call pinball.bounce block. What this block does is that when the pinball hits any of the 4 walls of the screen, it will get the pinball to bounce off at a different trajectory. And so to complete the block, I'm going to use the getEdge block here. So it will bounce off the wall to a different trajectory. The next step is to program in the sound that plays when we bounce off the wall, and it is called call sound tap play. With that, we've programmed the ball to bounce off the edge of the screen. Now let's program the pinball's mechanics when it hits the 5 bricks. So to do this, I'm going to add on to the when pinball collided with block, and I'm going to add more conditions to check for other sprites. So I'm going to open up the settings icon here, and then I'm going to drag the else if block inside the if block. I'm going to now check if the other sprite is the first brick. I'm going to duplicate the logic block here, and then now I'm going to change the sprite to the image sprite brick, which is the first brick. What is happening here is when the pinball collides with the brick will disappear, you play a sound, and the ball will bounce off. What is going to happen here is I'm going to open up the image sprite bricks blocks, and I'm going to set the visibility of the brick to be false so that the brick can disappear. Next, I'm going to get the pinball to move at a different heading. This is to give the ball a bouncing motion. And so I'm going to use the pinball block and search for the set pinball heading block. I'm going to use the math block to set a different heading of the pinball. And the formula I'm going to use would be 360 degrees subtracting the pinball's heading. So this will cause the pinball to bounce off. And the next step is to call the procedure to add the score. This score will track for how many bricks that the ball has broken. So now I'll have to repeat this step 4 more times to program in the collision mechanics for the other bricks. To do this, for the outer if block, I'm going to open up the blue gear icon and drag in the else if block below. And then I create a space to program in my second brick. So now you can pause the video and program in for the other 4 bricks, and you can resume the video when you're done. Welcome back. Are your codes the same as what I have done for the screen here? Make sure that you have changed the image sprite to the correct sprite respectively. So with this, we have programmed the collision mechanics of the pinball when it hits the 5 bricks. So our last step is to program the pinball mechanics when it bounces off the pedal. So for this, I am going to use the when image sprite pedal collided with block. And then I will use the if then control block to check if the other sprite that it collides with is the pinball. I will use the get other block, and then I will use the pinball block. For the bouncing mechanics, there are 3 conditions to program. I'm going to show a diagram. This is a diagram of the pedal. We will base our bouncing mechanics of the starting coordinate of the pedal, which is its x coordinate. The first condition is the one in orange. If the ball hits the left side of the pedal, you bounce off to the left. And the condition is this formula. The ball's x coordinate is less than or equal to the pedal's x coordinate plus 0.3 of the pedal's width. The second condition will cause the ball to bounce to the right. The formula is if the ball's x coordinate is greater than or equal to the pedal's x coordinate plus 0.7 of the pedal's width. The last condition is if it hits condition 3, it will bounce off at a steady trajectory from which it came from. So let's program this in now. For this, we will use the third control block, and we'll drag it inside the if to make a nested if block. Now we will use the math block to compare. We will also use the addition block as well as the multiplication block. So to fill the blocks in, we will firstly use the pinball's x coordinates. And then we are going to check if its coordinate is less than or equal to the pedal's x coordinates plus a decimal of 0.3 to mark the left side of the pedal. I'm going to multiply it by the width of the pedal. For this, I am going to set the pinball's heading to bounce off towards the left. We will use the set pinball heading block. It will set an angle of 135 degrees. For the next condition, condition 2, the one in purple, I will duplicate this block and I will change the operator to be more than or equals to and change the decimal to be 0.7. And to get the pinball to bounce off to the right, I'm going to use the heading of 45 degrees. The last condition is to program the pinball's heading when it hits the middle part of the pedal. For this, the formula for it to bounce off will need the minus block, and then the formula to use would be to take 360 degrees and subtract off the pinball's current heading. And to wrap up the block, we will play a sound whenever it bounces off the pedal. For this, we will use the call sound bounce component to play the sound to bounce. So with this, we've programmed the bouncing mechanics of the ball when it hits the pedal, and we have successfully completed our block basher programming. Thank you for watching. I hope you have learned something with me today. Give us a like if you enjoyed this video and hit the subscribe button to see more Coding Bytes videos. Thank you, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.